Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, elves and dwarves, and most importantly, fellow readers, buckle your seatbelts and hide your hard-ons. We've got a special treat for you. Oh my gosh. I still can't believe I'm making this video, man. Oh my gosh. Dude, this is ridiculous. Okay, so I know I said I was doing a smut review, but I was looking over the smut I have consumed throughout my life, and I realized that only one of them is a chick book, Akator, A Court of Thorns and Roses. And, you know, I actually liked it a lot. So I need to review more female smut books. Guy smut books. And you know they're marketed to guys because there's boobies on the front. Almost all of them fall into harem fantasy. And this subgenre of books is so cooked. Holy crap, man. I'm gonna make another video making fun of all the tropes in this subgenre because it is cooked for sure. Like, brain rot to the extreme. Absolutely absurd. To be clear, this subgenre does not make any sense. It does not follow the laws of the universe whatsoever. So you just keep that in mind, man. Like, just the idea of a harem, especially nowadays, is just so unbelievably ridiculous. You know, like trying to satisfy multiple women, and I'm not referring to the bedroom guys. Like that's the easy part. just day to day. It's such a ridiculous premise. Like, there's a reason Sisyphus is only pushing one boulder. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so it's a ridiculous premise. These books are all brain rot for sure, but it's like, it's my comfort genre, gosh darn it. That and lit RPGs. Is it supposed to make sense? Moving on, we have our categories from lowest tier to highest tier. We're starting on the very bottom with Flaccid. You know, it's an F tier book. It's flaccid. You know, it's not even doing the bare minimum. Coming in C tier, we have Too Cooked, where it's just a little too crazy. Even in the fog of war that precedes post-nut clarity, it just don't make any sense, man. It's too ridiculous. Third category is self-explanatory. It does what it's supposed to. For A tier, we have Both Heads Are Happy. Once again, I hope that's self-explanatory. And finally, for the S tier books in this video, we have Well, Mark Me Down as Scared and Horny. And that's for the books that, like, were actually good. Like, yeah, you know, it's got the spice in there, you know what I'm saying? But it's also like, the plot was actually really good too. You know, it's something you think about afterwards, and you're just like, oh, hey, that was pretty good. Pretty good. Look, I fully admit that these books are completely ridiculous and unhinged. But one, they're my comfort books, okay? You know, I go into all these books knowing that they're completely unrealistic. And two, if chicks can proudly tell people that they've listened to Den of Vipers, then I got nothing to be ashamed of. All right, starting from left to right, we are starting strong with Prism Academy. For the series, and pretty much all of these are a series, I just picked one of the photos from the series. This one, you know, comfortably A tier. David Blake, I don't know why I'm even bothering using names. I guarantee that the authors and the voice actors are using pen names. Would not surprise me at all. But yeah, so David Blake, he subverts a couple tropes, you know? There's an in-universe explanation for why the main character... I can't even say this shit with a straight face. Why the main character has a magic penis. Why he has no refractory period. Why the other members of the harem get along. All of that is explained in universe. Prism Academy takes place in a fictional universe where a select few people have the opportunity to acquire powers. There's 6 types of powers based on colors of the spectrum, and women can only get 1 of them, whereas men can get anywhere from 2 to 6. If a guy bonds with a woman who has the same color as him, you know, bond, you know, PG-13 language there, then they both become stronger as a result. So most guys only get like 2 to 3 colors. But of course, you know, our dashing protagonist ends up with all 6 babies, so he can bond with any of the eligible females. And it's just ridiculous, you know. It's a story, and you know, because, and of course, you know, you'd think harem's gonna stop at 6, you know. That's a manageable number. Nope. But no, it's like, no, we gotta stay cooked, baby. He gets to way more than 6 by the end of the series. But yeah, overall, this series is still pretty good. In my personal opinion, the first book in all of these series will always be the best. Because all of these harem books, they have this ridiculous tendency to blow out of control. And so by the second book, there'll be like 4 or 5 members of the harem. And it's just ridiculous, man. Like, at no point do I ever think, yeah, this is realistic. But the first book is just like a romance novel, but written by a guy. So it's just fun. I'll always appreciate the first book in a harem series way more than the rest of the series. The series has to be pretty freaking good for me to keep up with it. And despite how ridiculous the rest of the series gets, because of course he ends up with way more than 6 people, it's still pretty good. And I like comfortably A tier. Minotaur's Maze of Monster Girls by Marcus Sloss. I don't know how I feel about this, man. I think I have to put it as classic because it's just like Marcus Sloss. He writes a lot of adventure smut books, but this one is not very good at either of those categories. Like the adventure is just kind of slow and I'm not really invested in the characters the protagonist is shacking up with. So it's kind of like, I gotta put it in flaccid. I'm sorry, y'all. Mayor of Elftown. I don't remember a single thing about this book. So, man, if it's forgettable, I think it has to go here. You know, I don't remember a thing about it. Next, we have Heretic Spellblade by Katie Robertson. And this one is, oh gosh, how do you even explain this one? So a guy with magic powers and a magical harem, you know, because it works like that, gets invaded by demons, and he's like in the last stronghold on the continent that hasn't been overrun by these demonic horde. Well, the demon who destroys the rest of his harem and is about to wipe him out takes an interest in him and decides to send him back in time before the first demon invasion started to destroy everything on the continent. And the character quickly realizes that there's some differences between his timeline and the one he's currently in. And he's constantly assessing the current timeline based on his previous timeline and trying to reacquire all the old members of his previous harem. And it's surprisingly good. It's surprisingly good. This is the first S tier book, baby. Let's go. Katie Robertson's really good at plot, and Stephanie Savannah's a good voice actress. Put it that way. All right. Tamron Tainer, Herald of Shalia. Okay, so remember that fog of war I was describing where the 6s at the bar are 10s prior to the post-nut clarity? That is, this book manages to penetrate that haze and just remind you just how absolutely cooked this world is. Yes. At no point could I take any of this world building seriously. It's completely ridiculous. So yeah, it belongs here for sure. Moving on. Goblin Apocalypse. More like Goblin this eggplant. And that's all I have to say about that. Next up, Morning Woods. Everyone likes big chests. This book is whack. It is about a mimic that ends up killing enough travelers and just naturally leveling up its abysmally low intelligence stat to the point where it gains self-consciousness and decides to leave its starting dungeon area. And then it just starts roaming through the wildlands, becoming an absolute menace to everyone. It's completely fun. And you know what? It's an absolute gem. You're never gonna encounter another book quite like this. I think it's the best. This book is the best description of this category. Mark me down as scared and horny, boys. All right, moving on. Dungeon Diving 101 by Bruce Sentar. You know, I feel like I need to drag all the Bruce Sentar books out here. Saving Supervillains, Dragon's Justice. I've been through all of these. I don't know what it is, man. This guy is just, he's such a good author. All of these are just the ultimate comfort books. Like the pacing's fantastic, the plot's pretty good. Let me rapid fire off the plots for these. The first one takes place in a lit RPG world where a guy has, like, you know, a rare talent, as they all do in these book series, and he ends up as the only male in an all-female school. Really good, really good. Saving Supervillains. I really like the world building in this one. So the gender ratio is totally messed up because the Y chromosome is affected by superpowers or something like that. So like less men are being born nowadays as a result. The protagonist, of course, has more powers than everyone else, and he tries to reform supervillains. And there's more to the story than that, but it's like, yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good, pretty good. Dragon's Justice. Yeah, he ended up writing like 9 of these. You know, this was a successful series. He ended up writing 9 of these. So you know it was He ended up writing 9 of these, so you know it was a successful series.
You got a star.
I really like this one. Basically, a guy finds out that he's a dragon in a magical world where dragons shouldn't exist anymore. The settings for all of these are like totally different, and they're all just a blast to listen to. Bruce Sentar's writing is better than Prism, so I'm gonna go like this. Yep. All right, moving on to something more mediocre. We have The Shifter, the 3rd book of the Alex Kahn series by Hercules West. I don't know how I feel about this series. I don't know how the author felt about this series. You can tell that there are typos in the audiobook, which is pretty bad when you can tell that. And then there was a couple times where the voice actors didn't care about the book either because they re-recorded lines. which is always a little treat. The thing is, nothing in this book was that crazy. The protagonist is actually one of the most normal people in this whole series. So I gotta put it as low B tier, you know? And The Court of Thorns and Roses. You'd probably think that like I've overwhelmingly consumed smut books marketed to men, that I would rate this low. That is quite the opposite. I actually really enjoyed this, and if anything, this has proven that I need to consume more female literature. So don't worry, I will do a female smut tier list at some point in the future. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. I've only finished the 1st book, but I definitely plan to come back to this series and even try out some more stuff by Sarah J. Maas. I don't know if I'll get into other authors. I definitely plan to stay far away from Colleen Hoover. Supernatural Travel Agency. This is the 1st book in this series by Dante King. The plot's a little slow, but you know, it's all right. Savage Ascension. Gosh, I can't even remember the plot for this. It's either too cooked or low C tier. And it's about a foreigner who gets trapped by a Roman Empire that has this. I'll be honest with you boys. If the book didn't rise above A tier, didn't rise above. All right, I'll be honest with you boys. If the book wasn't good enough to make it into A tier or S tier, the plot really isn't worth describing. Yo, I almost forgot one. Monstrous Love is a series by Virgil Knightley, and the 3rd book in this series is so funny. Like, holy sh! This book is hilarious. I like this whole series too because aside from the 3rd book, they're all monogamous relationships. It's a series, but that's just because it's more like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you know what I mean? Where like the relationships from the previous book are still like around as side characters in the future books. And I really like it. It's just a lot of fun. If you held a gun to my head and forced me to show one of these books to my wife, I would actually pick this one over Akatar because this one's just so funny. Yeah, let me rearrange these real quick. I'm gonna pop this one up here in the very top. Yeah, if you have any interest in just goofy romance novels that are just cooked and funny at the same time, then Monstrous Love is definitely a good series to check out. All right, this concludes my tier list. Let me know if you disagree in the comments and what y'all would like to see next. I'll see y'all around, Kings.